So my testimony starts back at the age of 5. Growing up without a father, I wanted to basically know like where my father was at. Why wasn't he there? And I couldn't get those answers. So as a 5-year-old, I felt that I was to blame, that, it was my fault he wasn't there. I remember trying to turn to my mother for reassurance that I was wanted and accepted. She struggled with alcohol. She would go out and get drunk just about every night. She would leave me with strangers. And this kind of confirmed my feelings of rejection, that I wasn't wanted. We were moving so much, I lost track. And, being enrolled in one school, meeting friends just to be taken out and enrolled in another school, it got to the point where I didn't want to meet friends no more. Beginning to have resentment towards my mother because I thought she didn't care about me. And I would watch my friends' moms interact with them, and they were always affectionate and loving, and I never got that from my mother. My mom's drinking led to a lot of domestic violence in the home with my aunts and uncles. And it just got to the point where I didn't really want to be around it. And I would take off out of the house at night, run up the street. Sometimes I'd find a bush just to crawl behind and go to sleep, just to get away from everything. At the age of 13, we were living with one of my mom's boyfriends, and again, they would get drunk and fight, and he finally told her, you know what, I've had enough of your crap, get your son and get out. And it was in that moment that I realized my dad was not in my life because of me, he was not in my life because of my mother. And so that resentment turned to full-blown anger. We moved to a very bad area. It was gang and crime infested. Being white didn't help. It was a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood. I didn't want to be in the home, so I'd go outside as much as I could, but then I faced a lot of bullying. I learned how to fight and stick up for myself eventually, and I realized that being violent, which is what I watched my mom do to resolve her conflicts, when I did that in the neighborhood, the kids left me alone. I began to get respect and recognition, which were things that I had always wanted at home. My friends then would come around and ask me to come out and hang with them, and just, they wanted to spend time with me, stuff my own family didn't want to do. Brother, who's 9 years older than me, he was never in the home growing up. He was always gone. For the first time, he was there. Unfortunately, he was also suffering from addiction. He was a drug addict, and even trying to get his attention and his acceptance and recognition, I couldn't get it. And so it just really made me feel like broken. It made me feel unwanted. It made me feel rejected. And so I gravitated towards the kids in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, they were gang members, and I ended up joining a gang. So what happened was, at the age of 15, my mom, she walked out. She basically accused my brother of taking over the home. His friends would come over and get high, and she said you could have the house, and she walked out and she left me. Shortly after, at about the age of 16, my brother went to jail, and I was living alone. I remember the electricity got turned off in the home. There was no food in the house, in the fridge, the cabinets were empty. Hot water got turned off, and so I didn't want to be there, and I just stayed out on the streets as long as I could. Being on the streets, running with, gang members, I witnessed a lot of violence. Drive-by shootings were almost a daily occurrence. I lost a lot of friends to gang violence. Trying to attend their funerals and having a hard time processing how they were just here last week, but now they're gone. And I'm looking at their caskets, like, not comprehending, like, what happened, how are they gone? I remember thinking that it was only going to be a matter of time before, my time came and I was going to get killed. I did get shot in the neighborhood, hanging out with my friends. And shortly after that, I went and I got a gun. And I carried the gun for protection, supposedly, but my intentions were to use it if I had to. I vowed that I would never be victimized again. And I became real hardened, and my criminal conduct increased dramatically during that time. I remember my friends telling me, you know what, you need to learn to look out for yourself, because if you don't, no one else is. And from there, it was just running the streets, terrorizing the community, the neighborhoods. On one fateful night, I went out with 6 of my friends, and we had a loaded gun, and we were out committing robberies and thefts. And that night we took someone's life. And that decision led to my incarceration. I was arrested and tried, convicted as an adult, and I was sentenced to life without parole. I was never supposed to come home. And I did approximately 26 years on a life without parole sentence. In 2019, I was given a chance by the state of California to appear before the parole board and was given an opportunity to come home. And by God's grace, the doors opened. He parted the waters for me. At an early age, having to go through the whole incarceration, I remember at 17 just getting on my knees and crying out to Jesus and telling him that I couldn't do it. It was too much, the pain. And I told him if he had a plan for my life, I needed him to show me, because I was ready to give up. And it was almost as if instantaneously he started speaking to my heart, letting me know that it was going to be okay. There's a passage in the New Testament. It says that it talks about a peace that surpasses all understanding. And I witnessed that peace early on. He gave it to me, and I knew that it was going to be okay. I used to tell my family all the time, I don't know when or how, but I know who, referring to Jesus. That he had me, and he was going to take care of me, and everything was going to turn out to his glory. And so in 2019, I was given that chance. I appeared before the parole board, 2 commissioners. I was found suitable for parole, and I walked out on January 30th of 2019. Every day, I'm just amazed at God's grace and his goodness. It's like, that he loved me so much that he would move heaven and earth just for me, and he did. I can see how what he's done in my life has touched people, and it just brings me much joy knowing that he's getting all the glory for what he's done in my life. For him to care and love me so much that he saved me from all that danger that I was putting myself in as a teenager. He kept me safe. Here's how I found out about the sanctuary. I was actually sitting on a level 4 maximum security prison in Calipatria, California. We were privileged enough to have a special event take place through the chaplain there. And Christian Hosoi was one of the volunteers that came in. They brought in the ramps, and I was able to, have a few minutes of his time. As a child, he was somebody that I looked up to, I idolized. My heart really rejoiced when I found out that he had given his heart to the Lord. Apart from his legend of skating, this is now my brother in Christ, and we're going to spend eternity one day in heaven. And I thought it was just the coolest thing that God would open the doors and allow this man to come in just so I can have, a few minutes of interacting with him. And I was able to share my testimony with Christian. And I remember he prayed for me, and he told me about the sanctuary. I knew that when I did finally come home, I had to come to the sanctuary. And I would also like to mention that during that time after meeting Christian, I did get a letter from you. And out of the blue, it was unexpected. And I got this letter from you, basically just encouraging me, saying, hey, LEIF, I just want you to know that everybody at the sanctuary is praying for you. We're praying for your nephew, and how's he doing? Was he able to make it out to, skate night on Thursday? And I just felt in that moment that, God knew that I needed those words of encouragement and that comfort. And it did so much for me in that time of my life. And so I never forgot about the sanctuary. It was like my heart was already here, even though my body was inside. And so when I came home, I told my family, hey, let's go. We're going to the sanctuary. So when I came to the sanctuary for the first time and I walked through those doors, I remember I sat right over here on the left. I was sitting right behind you, actually. And just being here in that moment and listening to the sermon, and just really, my heart was just filled with so much joy. And I just kept thinking, when the service was over, how bad I wanted to come up and just shake your hand and say thank you, and look what God has done. He brought me home. So what God has done in my life as a part of being here at the sanctuary, he's actually fulfilled my desire to work with youth. After having, attended for a few months, I was finally invited to become a part of the Dream Team. And it was one of the most fulfilling aspects of my life and my walk with Christ. Just being able to be a part of this and know that I'm helping to further the kingdom of God. And more importantly, above anything, I'm doing it with kids, with our youth. I know, having grown up, not having my father there and having a father figure and an example and a role model, I know how important it is for these kids. And to be allowed by the sanctuary. So oftentimes when I'm in the malls shopping, one of the things and ways that I explain to people, that I attend the sanctuary and extend that invitation, it happens a lot through like skate shops. And it's often the younger kids that work there, putting the decks together and stuff. And, I pull out my phone, I show them pictures of the sanctuary, of the skate sessions on Thursday, pictures with me and Pastor Christian Hasoy. They can see the joy when I speak to them about what's going on there. I let them know that, look, God is moving mightily. People are being healed and delivered like every week. And that, it's an experience that I want everybody to share in. And I just extend the invitation to them and let them know, hey, we're out here every Thursday and Sunday. Feel free to come out and join us. Here's the time, location. I want people to know that no matter what they may be going through in life, how hopeless their situation may seem, how dark and gloomy it may appear, to never give up hope. Because I held on to hope for 26 years, and God never once let me down or disappointed me. In fact, he did just the opposite.